It's a cop-out that we in our society have every day, because we have this idea that if we choose a side, we are alienating someone else. Do you believe in murder? Do you think that people should eat each other? That also depends on the situation. Okay, so how do you consent to being eaten? If everything is so nuanced, let's take it a little bit further. Let's talk about child genital mutilation. Okay, we've got two types. We've got men and women, males and females. How do you feel about female child genital mutilation? There we go. You said a key value for you right now. Key value for you is consent. This is one of the reasons you and I get along so well, because everything I do is based on consent. I won't force you to do your homework because you're an adult, you can consent. So you can also consent to failing. So the thing is, we look at that, there's a key value, core value. Where do you feel that in your body? I know this is very weird, but it's actually not so weird. It's just abnormal for people. They don't examine themselves like this. This is where I write from. So where do you feel that feeling about female genitals mutilation in your body? Lower abdomen. Okay. Now, what if I talk about male mutilation of young boys, which is really just circumcision? Officially, that is circumcision. So how do you feel about that? A lot of the world, huge parts of the world believe that it is okay. Most of the world says it's wrong to do it to a girl. Much of the world says it's not a problem to do it to a boy if it is for religious reasons or cultural reasons. And so again, you brought it back to consent. How my starting point for any argumentative writing, whether I agree with the topic or not, is I become the type of person who would agree or would not agree. You've heard me make arguments for capitalism and make arguments against capitalism. I am usually against capitalism, but I have a friend, I've got a call with them tonight, and they are so much against capitalism that they look at how I use capitalism to my advantage so that my 5 kids can live a better life. They see that as a cop-out. The same way that I said, I won't take a side is a cop-out. At the same time, I think that the fact that they need a mediator to speak to their father, I think that's a cop-out. They had professional mediation for a year with their father. Now, all of this is subjective. In order to argue, we have to accept about ourselves that we are not objective. If you are feeling that objection anywhere in your body, it's not intellectual, it's emotional. Any somatic experience when it comes to a thought shows that it is emotional. I own it. Personally, what I do when I write argumentatively is I own that feeling. I've shown you my 3 favorites: ethos, pathos, logos. And they're constantly floating around me. I see them as like little balls that float around everything I do. Now, ethos, pathos, and logos bring this, they allow me to balance out how my audience is feeling. Remember, I want, in an argumentative essay, for them to believe what I'm saying. I want to argue my point. I want to argue my point so that I can make them agree with my point. But what value is there in them agreeing with my point? Can someone other than Sydney answer? You guys know what I mean when I say a bit. I'm doing a bit. It's like I'm doing a skit. I learned a lot of what I know about argumentation from Katashka, yeah, but I learned the open-mindedness that I have. Katashka is very open-minded, but in a different way. Katashka is the type who will say, "May the Lord judge between you and me." Yeah, because she 100% knows she's right. I am the type who says, well, I may be wrong. Okay? I am very aware of my own fallibility. Now, in that, I think the way that I approach argumentation is I commit to the bit, always. If I'm going for a side, even if I don't fully agree with the side, just go for it. And the fact that I kind of agree with the other side is what I use to add nuance to my argument. I never agree wholeheartedly with anything. I agree, I can say as a general rule we should do this, but this is the exception. As a general rule, I before E except after C, but there are exceptions. And so just commit to it, okay? And be that person, be that character that agrees with that thing or disagrees with that thing. So, Inika, you were writing for me. You were answering my question that I wrote down here. What was my question? Sydney and Inika, I want to take yours a little bit further. Okay. So Inika, you say when making the same argument with somebody else, telling them that other people also agree with you might influence them in agreeing with our point, gives you leverage. And so you say that people agreeing with you, you want people to agree with you because it gives you leverage. Okay? As far as I can see here. Then, Sydney, you say in order to get them to the point of agreeing with you, they'd have to think about the topic. Okay, let's just finish that with Inika. So, but why do we want that leverage? Why? What is the point of getting them on the same page as you? What do we gain from that? We ultimately want something from them. We want them to change their thinking or their behavior. Usually both. We don't just want someone to agree with us for the sake of agreement. That's not debate. We want someone to agree with us for the sake of change. The value in argumentation, the value in persuasion is that it produces change. If you have argued and someone has agreed, but it has not brought change, then I would not say they have understood the argument. If a murderer agrees, yeah, no, it's definitely not something I should do. It's definitely bad to kill people. And they keep killing people. Then you've argued the wrong point. Because you should have argued whether they should be killing people. Whether it reflects their core values. Because arguing whether it's good or bad is black or white. But arguing whether something is good and still applies to you. I know people who say speeding is bad, or, oh, this is my favorite. Oh no, I could never believe that someone would hit their wife. Oh, those are the people I know. Like the people in my life that I have met who are shocked by people hitting their wife are the people who also hit their wife. Like, I've met a couple of outliers, but they don't believe it applies to them. They don't believe that them shoving their wife against the wall by her neck is hitting her, so it's fine. So does it apply to you? And so that is why, this is the next point I want to get to, our argument must have a purpose. Number one. Number two, our argument must be relevant. Okay? Number three, our argument needs to be applicable. Can you actually apply what you have agreed to in the argument? Okay. So, in order to build this, okay, we need a couple of things. And I've got a couple of notes here. So, the first thing we need is a clear and concise thesis statement. Okay? I've gone on at length about thesis statements. But we need a clear and concise thesis statement because our thesis statement is the foundation of anything we say or write. It is, what are we basing our information on? If I am going to argue wholeheartedly that the sky is actually red at 12 p.m. p.m. every day, like there's this moment at 12 p.m. that the sky turns red. That's how I know what time it is. If I am going to argue that, and I have a thesis that is not related to that, nobody's going to have any clue what I'm talking about. Okay? It's just a communication technique. So a clear thesis statement tells us what we're saying, where we're going. It tells our audience that, but it also tells us so that we can stay on track. Okay? And your thesis statement needs to do two things. It needs to have a topic and a direction. It's a vector. So, don't laugh at my science scienciness here. But it's a vector, so it's a topic and a direction. Okay? And basically, I want to know what position do you hold and what is the roadmap for your argument. What are you going to use to explain this? I'm really freaking out from these open doors. The cupboards have not yet been fixed. The contractors told the landlord, no, everything is sorted, and then just didn't come back. And I'm like, there is at least 3 weeks worth of work left here. To me, I will direct them. Okay, so we need to have a clear and concise thesis statement. The next thing we need is logical organization. This is very, very obvious. But we're in what is logical organization? What do you guys think? Can you guys just quickly, for a moment, just write just one sentence? What does it look like to have a logically organized argumentative essay? I've got some curiosity questions for you. Okay, so one can update, we can use a peel method so that the audience constantly understands where they're going with the argument. Okay, so that's your organization within paragraphs, right? But what about our organization of the whole thing? So our argument needs to be logically organized, and I've got a couple of favorites. Oh gosh. I don't want to put it on silent, but I've got like random people phoning me. So I've got a couple of favorites. Oh wait, I see OT's typing. I want to see. Okay, so having ideas that handle the same argumentative point together and that flow into the next point efficiently. Yes, that's important. And I think that actually that actually works with what Sydney said. Okay, so being efficient with how you write out your whole argument, having everything support each other, helping you make your point. All three of you said something very similar. Okay, I'm gonna share a couple of potential models with you, okay, of how we can argue something. And I'm going to try fly through this, and I'd like to explore it more at a later stage. But I mean, I might leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger. Okay, so our first one is the classical structure. So here we've got a clear thesis statement. We've got background information on the topic. We've got a presentation of your main arguments. We've got addressing the counter arguments, and we've got conclusions that reinforce our thesis. And this is our most basic one. This is the one everyone uses. This is the one I teach literally everyone. Okay? Now, for more advanced, we're going to go a little bit more advanced here. Okay? And I might not teach this to absolutely everyone because we don't have the time to go in depth into these things, which are actually like second year university concepts. Okay? But obviously, I'm going to tell you about them. And if you want to explore them, just tell me. Just, I can't help myself. Okay. So, we've got the Toolman model. And here you've got your claim, your grounds, your warrant, your backing, your rebuttal, and your qualifier. Okay. So you start off with your claim, which is your main argument or thesis. Okay. Then you give your grounds. What is the grounds of your claim? So you give evidence that supports your claim. Then you give your warrant. And this is your explanation of how this evidence supports the claim. It's a appeal, but as a whole thing. Okay. Then we've got our backing. So we have additional support for the warrant. Okay. We've got our rebuttal. And here we address any counter arguments that we haven't heard yet, but we know there are counter arguments because they've gone through our head. We're like, I think I'm not going to mention that. Mention it and give it a rebuttal. Actually address it. And then our qualifier is acknowledging the limitations of our argument. This qualifier I find is key. Being self-aware of the limitations of your argument makes people so much more willing to hear what you have to say. Okay, I love this. Then we've got the Rogerian model. And this is the one we use for very controversial topics. Okay? Here we introduce the problem and acknowledge any opposing views. Okay? This is the one that Katoshka used. Okay? So you your introduction presents the problem and acknowledges opposing views. That's okay, Inika. I will put the recording up so you can hear the last bit. Okay. And then you identify common ground between your position and any opposing views. Next, you present your position while emphasizing any shared values you have with people who disagreed with you. And then you suggest a compromise or a resolution. This is about problem solving and collaboration. Then we've got the problem solution structure. We've got two left. So here we have our introduction, which presents the problem. Then we've got our explanation of the problem's causes and effects. We've got a presentation of the potential solution. So we start off with, what is the problem? What causes this problem and what are the effects of this problem? What are the potential solutions to this problem? Okay. What are the pros and cons of this solution? Very solution based. And then we can recommend the best solution. And we summarize, and our conclusion summarizes the problem and the chosen solution. And so you have not argued, hey, agree with my point. You have argued, hey, my point provides a solution to a problem. So instead of, let's look at the abortion debate, a very, very controversial one. I could say, if I'm anti-abortion, I could say, people abort babies. Instead of saying, you are evil for aborting babies, making a judgment, I can say, people abort babies because they cannot financially manage. There is no viable alternative solution because they don't want the child in the system. I've even heard of religious people aborting babies because they believe that the baby will go to heaven rather than live in a world where they have nothing. And so we have this whole thing going down, right? So I present you with a problem and I say, but the solution is not abortion. The solution is building up social welfare so that those children can be taken care of by their mothers. Those mothers can get support or they can be adopted out. And we need to fix the adoption world. And so that could be the solution. And so I've built the solution, you've agreed with the solution, and now you no longer agree with abortion. Okay? Which is a cool technique, right? Then I've got my cause and effect structure. This is my last one. And here I have an introduction with a clear thesis statement. I give the main causes that lead to the effect. I've got an explanation of how each cause contributes to the effect. I can discuss the overall impact of the effect. And I can summarize the main points of the thesis. Okay? So this is kind of similar to another one where we've got our thesis statement. We've got what causes this effect, because this thing that we're arguing is really just an effect. Okay. And then we look at each of the causes that are contributing to this effect. Let's say abortion. Abortion is a problem in society. It's a problem in society. And so what causes abortion? Mothers who aren't supported, lack of education, lack of sexual education, rape, inadequate mental health care, inadequate actual health care, primary health care. And so all of these things contribute to abortion. And so then we can discuss the overall impact of this effect. So what is the effect on society of abortion? And so what this does is it has not said, hey, abortion is bad. It has said abortion is as a result of trauma. And I focused on the different traumas. And therefore abortion is based on trauma and therefore not logical thinking. And I can argue this from both sides. And so I used the abortion one. I don't know. It was the first thing that sprung to mind. I feel like it's a very nuanced debate that people have explored a lot. But when we look at these, there are so many different ways that we can structure our argument beyond just Peel. Peel is the absolute basis of what we do. It's the baseline. It's the bare minimum. We don't end there. Fly high. Okay, I will see you guys on the morrow. You know what? I think tomorrow I'm going to give you another opportunity to just choose what we do. Tell me what you want to do. Choose a topic and say, let's fill this in. Okay. Because I feel like this could actually function as a complete lesson. I'm going to change the name a little bit, and I'm going to add another lesson to that module. But I think this can function as a complete lesson.